Okay, so today I'm going to make Lekito's famous triple chocolate cookies. So we start off with our bowl and 250 grams of butter. So this is going to be enough to make 24 cookies. So there it goes. So 250 of butter. Now we're going to put 2 kinds of sugar in. The first kind is this dark soft brown sugar, and we're going to put about 150 grams or so of that in here. And actually I'll go a little over, because the more the soft brown sugar that we put in, kind of chewier, slightly chewier the cookies will be. So the rest of the sugar will be this. So we'll make this up to a total sugar of 300. That's the two combined. 300 grams. Okay, so now we put that onto the mixer just to beat that up. You could of course do that with a hand whisk as well. You can do it by beating it by hand with a wooden spoon. But in the stand mixer it's just a bit easier, a bit quicker. And in a moment what we're going to do is put in 2 eggs into the stand mixer to mix it up with the sugar and butter once that's creamed. Okay, so now you can see this is our butter and sugars just all nicely creamed together. Now I'm going to add eggs. Little tip though, always put the eggs into something else first and break them into a cup, just so that when I tip them into the bowl I'm not tipping in some shell. Otherwise once it goes in there it'll be quite hard to retrieve, but you don't want that ending up in somebody's biscuit. So here's my 2 eggs, they're going to go in the mixer. We'll just beat that for about 1 or 2 minutes so it goes together, and then we're going to bring it back and then we'll add some other ingredients. Some vanilla we're going to add in, a couple of teaspoons. So you can see this is now, it's been beaten with the eggs and a bit of vanilla, butter and sugar, and it's now got this kind of nice creamy consistency. So to that I'm going to add my flour. Okay, so I'm going to add about 280 grams of plain flour. Okay, here we go. And in there also we want a little bit of baking powder, so it's going to be a teaspoon. It's always good to have a set of measuring spoons. So pick our teaspoon, and put that over the flour. And I like to add some salt into the cookies because it just gives it a nice little edge. It kind of does that same thing that salted caramel does. So you get that lovely sort of sense of saltiness with the sweetness. So just kind of put a bit of salt in there. Like that. And because these are oat cookies, of course they have some oats, so there's about 150 of oats are going to go in. Okay. And of course, very importantly for chocolate cookies, we want some chocolate. So I put about a total of around 600 grams into this mix, and it can be any combination you like. So, but I'm going to make it about even the dark chocolate, milk and white. So we put in about 200 of the dark. Okay, that's just a little bit over. But it doesn't matter, as I say, any combination will do. So about the same with the milk. So 200. Okay. And then finally some white. Now the white chocolate is not particularly sweet. White chocolate comes in this form, in these little pieces here. That's how I buy it. So when I'm talking about white chocolate, I'm not talking about a Milky Bar kind of thing. It's that super sweet stuff, which isn't chocolate at all. But this stuff is a really nice kind of creamy, vanilla-y kind of flavour to it. Okay, so there we go. Then we just take our spoon, big spoon, and we just kind of mix it all together. You can see it's all, that all comes together now. I guess I could put this back on the stand mixer and use the beater just to mix it, but I'd just quite like to get in there with the spoon. I want to get the flour distributed completely evenly through the mix, but I don't want to overwork it. So it's a fine line. So if I put it on the machine, then you just take it too far. But here, you see I've got a nice consistent mix to it there. You can see the kind of, it's quite sticky. Now that is not quite ready to use. This now needs to go in the fridge for at least half an hour. But you can put it in for as long as you like. I mean, so I'll make this dough in the evening and I put it in the fridge overnight, come back to it in the morning to use it. And so that'll be the next stage where I'll show you how we actually then make the cookies themselves. Okay, so here we are. We've got the dough out of the fridge, and you can see it's now gone. It's quite hard now. It's not all squidgy like it was before. And we're going to be putting it onto some baking sheets now to actually bake the cookies. So I've preheated the oven. The oven's at 180 degrees, and we're going to do it on a series of baking sheets. So I've got my sheets here. So I'm just going to get those prepped. I'm doing 24 cookies, so I'm going to do 6 on each sheet. You probably could get away with 8, but I try not to let them flow in, run into each other too much. So I do 6 per sheet in order to keep some space between. I'm going to actually put them on this baking paper. This is like a silicone non-stick baking parchment. You can get it in any supermarket. This is a kind of a larger commercial version, but this is actually the same material. And this means that they won't stick when they bake. So it's very simple just to fold the baking paper such that it's fits the baking sheet nicely. Okay, so what I tend to do then is I get a spoon just to kind of help me loosen the mix because it's quite hard around the side now. So I'm just going around to just loosen some of it up. And what I'm going to do is going to create something which doesn't look much like a cookie. So I'm going to take some of this dough and I want it to get a piece which is going to be about the size and shape of a small plum. So I'm just going to roll it in my hands round and round like that to make it into a little ball, about that kind of size, and put that on my baking sheet. Now when that goes in the oven, with all that butter in it, it's going to melt really quickly. And so we have to give them some space. So we just start them off like a ball like this and they will turn into cookie shape all by themselves. So got to get these all on the baking sheets now. Okay, so now these are going to go into the oven and they're going to bake for about 15 to 16 minutes at 180. Okay, so here you can see that the cookies have come out, they've spread out into sort of more or less round shapes. So I'm going to slide the baking paper off the baking tray onto the cooling rack. And there's our first ones. It's the first 6. And they will just flatten a little bit as they cool, and they'll be nice and soft, chewy cookies. So they won't be crisp like biscuits, they'll be chewy cookies. And there we have it, 24 of Lekito's famous triple chocolate and oat cookies. Enjoy!